So where we fill it out?
Waste time. Screen up there, they're gonna tell you to click the screen and where you can apply to. You can do that at home for all of that. You don't gotta do that on the line.
Job fairs across the nation are attracting thousands of frustrated citizens that are desperately looking for work. Now, seeing these people makes me think of the breadlines that happened back during the Great Depression. You guys, over 7.3 million people that are currently looking for a job can't find one. Job openings are lower than the people that are unemployed, and the job openings data is probably cooked. We know that because the BLS has had an active investigation running. Now, job openings are so bad, the hiring rate is the lowest it's been since 2009. And we have the highest amount of job cuts since 2020, the lockdowns. Even though the job openings are near pre-COVID levels, unfortunately, we now have more debt, less savings, and a massive cost of living and job market crisis, which are all of the ingredients for the next Great Depression. And be warned, you guys, protect your purchasing power at all costs and to the best of your ability. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. We missed you this weekend. And having said that, you guys already know this video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Mitch, how are you, sir?
The stock market, NASDAQ, is again at an all-time high, yet there are people standing in line at job fairs, which generally don't work and aren't worth anything. They're not helpful. The theory behind them is good, but the ramifications and the net result is not helpful. So a tale of two worlds, and this is not good because eventually the market will end up reflecting what is happening to mom and pop inside of those job fairs.
Well, and people are going to wake up to that, Mitch, because as you and I know, and we're telling the listeners and the viewers, mom and pop are already bankrupt. There are already people that are losing their houses and kicked out on the street. The problem is the media and the powers are covering it up, but this channel is not. And having said that, let's listen to our first video of a young man that's going to report what it's actually like in the job market.
My name is Noah Nelson. I live in Arizona, around Tulsa area, Surprise area. I've lived here most of my life. For the past month, like about 2 months, I have been unemployed for reasons of I can't find a job. I have applied every single place. I just applied at Carvana and they just didn't accept me because I was too late for an interview because they weren't communicating to me at all. I have applied to multiple warehouses, Vanguard, Puma. Puma hired someone else without even telling me or communicating. So at this point, I don't know what to do. I am trying to get a job. I'm trying to work because I have bills to pay and I am now just engaged with my fiance, but she is working her off and doing everything that she can. Well, I can't do anything. I don't know what to do at this point. And if anyone else feels my pain, please like this and share it because I don't feel like anyone else is understanding us anymore.
Now we're going to start with the Fred charts and then we're going to go into the Challenger report. And what you guys are seeing here is total job openings. We peaked for job openings back in March of 2022 at 12.1 million job openings. Ton of job openings. Obviously, that has been crashing down all the way to 7.22 million. Now, that's a drop, you guys, in about 2.5 years of 4.9 million jobs. We are about where we were at right before the lockdowns. The only difference is, guys, and the real problem is you guys see the trajectory is essentially plummeting. Once things start going down, that is incredibly hard to slow down. But we're at about where we were right before lockdowns. Again, we still have more debt, less savings, massive inflation, cost of living crisis. But I did want to show you guys it's absolutely being gutted right now. The job market is in distress. So remember that 7.22 million job openings because we got 7.38 million people that are unemployed and looking for a job. And don't forget, you guys, this doesn't count people that are not actively looking for work. So the reality is we have millions and millions and millions actually of more people that are unemployed, but this is reporting 7.38 million. So in other words, we don't have enough job openings for the people that want a job. And this problem is getting worse. In December of 2019, the amount of unemployed people was 5.8 million. Okay, so right now, from 2019 to current, because of what the Federal Reserve has been doing, we have another 1.5 million people unemployed with the cost of living crisis, debt crisis, fraud crisis, and the trajectory is going up. That's not good, guys. The unemployment rate sitting at 4.3. And what I wanted to do is, again, show you guys going back to December of 2019, the unemployment rate was 3.6%. So our labor market right now is much worse than it was in 2019. And also remember this, it's much more distorted and manipulated because of all of the PPP, EIDL, and the money printing that took place during 2020, 2021, and 2022. Things right now, you guys, are coming back to reality, and it is going to be very painful. This is from the U.S. Department of Labor, and I wanted to remind you guys that they are actively investigating the Bureau of Labor Statistics because they cannot collect data accurately because they're cooking the books. Before going to Mitch, let's listen to this Generation Z young man that cannot find a job, and he's crashing out.
I didn't fulfill 2 of their preferences, but the job description literally said, still apply if you think you're a good fit. I applied to an analyst job. I didn't fulfill 2 of their preferences, but the job description literally said, still apply if you think you're a good fit. And I was like, bet. I'm a smart guy. I can figure those 2 things out. Then I got a phone screening. I was happy because I don't even get those. I was even telling my friends that I had a good feeling about this. You know, I'm not a positive person, but I was finally trying to be positive about something because I thought I had a freaking chance. The day of the phone screening comes. It's set for noon. I was just sitting right here with the phone right here, just looking at it, stared at it. Even at 11:55, just in case, right? Noon happened. She's not there. I'm like, all right, fine. I had a phone screening where someone was late once. It's fine. 5 minutes later, nothing. 12:07, I get an email. Looking at your resume, it doesn't seem like you are qualified for this job, so I'm canceling your interview. Good luck with the rest of your job search. You looked at my resume the time you scheduled the interview? It would have been bad if she canceled 5 minutes before. She canceled it 7 minutes after. 350 jobs, lots of rejections. Nothing hit me as much as this. It's been like 2 weeks since this happened, and I think I'm still suffering from the effects. I feel terrible. I can't even enjoy my hobbies anymore because this affected me that deeply.
Mitch, job openings are plummeting. Unemployment is skyrocketing. There are lines, who knows how long they're extending, maybe half a mile. I have no idea. But there are millions and millions of people right now that need a job. They want a job, but they can't find a job. And as a result of not being able to find a job, they're suffering. So, Mitch, can you confirm whether or not you agree? Is the job market crashing? There's a but, though. But crashing really, really bad.
It is a tale of 2 worlds, so it depends which side of that world you're on. If you're in corporate America and you happen to be working for some of the larger corporations, not too bad yet, but in truth, this is all going to get worse, and this is all going to ramp up because it's a self-fulfilling circle of problems. If you can't afford rent, that means you can't afford the real estate tax. That means you have a higher probability of going bankrupt. All these things are connected. And then you lose a job or a spouse loses a job. That means 50% of your household income is gone. They're all connected. And people looking at these ideas, well, I can go to a job fair. It's too late. If you've already gone to a job fair, you really probably didn't do what was in your own best interest, which is networking. And you can see these people standing in line at these job fairs. They're not talking to each other, sitting there on the phone, having a conversation with something or somebody else, somewhere else, not focusing on the issue at hand. And that's typically because some people don't like to engage other people. But as long as you're standing there at a job fair, wouldn't it be an idea to have a conversation with the couple people around you, say, what happened to you? How come you're not able to get a job? And that simple practice of having a conversation is important. Why? Because if you were active before you lost your job and you were networking, when you lose a job, you have a resume in your hand and you find the company that you would like to work with. So you go into that company, you meet the secretary, you hand that secretary your resume, appropriately dressed. You introduce yourself. This is what I'm interested in, and this is what I can do for the company. All of a sudden, the secretary looks up and says, okay, here's somebody who's taking the initiative. How do you know that she doesn't pick up that resume and walk it over to an executive? How do you know if you don't take that chance and walk into that company that maybe you just happen to bump into an executive? You're properly dressed, your hair is cut, you're able to articulate what you can do for that company. You've got the trifecta in your hands and in your ability. The other problem is this young fella, and we've seen this before in these videos, when you do a video, that can last a lifetime. That person is his own worst enemy. You do not post videos that look bad upon you or look bad upon your previous employer or pick on somebody you know nothing about, even though that person was late. Yes, that young man was probably right. That's not the point. You don't start swearing online. You don't get online on a video not properly attired. You lack credibility. You're young and he's foolish, but he is in fact his own worst enemy. He's capable, but he has an anger problem, maybe rightfully so, maybe not. The point of the matter is his actions are his own worst enemy. So if you can sit and have a conversation, even if it's with your parents, eyeball to eyeball and say, this is what's happening. Well, you can have that exact same conversation with the secretary at a new employer instead of wasting time producing videos that hurt yourself and in probability your own family.
Absolutely, Mitch. And I do worry, especially the young adult. I worry about way too many people, first of all, but especially the young adults that maybe they weren't equipped, definitely not in school. Maybe their parents didn't equip them with how to get hired, right? There's a process to get hired. Be super nice. Don't make any social media videos like that, slamming the whole process, because if it's me, I'm going to social media to kind of get an idea of what your character is. So remember, you guys, super duper polite. You may not think this helps, but yes, sir, no, sir. You want these people, you know, and this is what it is. You want them to like you. And some of the things that they like after you leave is the follow-up. Now, is it going to work all the time because there's 300 people for one job? No, it's not going to work all the time, but you're going to have a better chance at getting that job. Speaking of jobs, let's now go into the Challenger report that is showing massive job cuts. The September 2025 Challenger report stating this: September job cuts fall 37%. That is month over month. However, the year to date is the highest since 2020, and we have the lowest year to date hiring since 2009. US-based employers announced 54,000 job cuts in September. And again, you guys, that is a 37% drop from August. On the third quarter, planned layoffs by US employers totaled 202,000. That is the highest Q3 total since 2020, when 497,000 job cuts were recorded. So far this year, companies have announced 946,426 job cuts. That is the highest year to date since 2020. I'll show you guys the stats here in a second. And this is also saying it is up 55% year over year. Again, looking at the first 3 quarters. This is what Challenger is saying. Right now, we're dealing with a stagnating labor market, cost increases, and a transformative new technology. With rate cuts on the way, we may see some stabilizing in the job market in the fourth quarter. But other factors could keep employers planning layoffs or holding off hiring. And you guys, I'm telling you right now, everything is changing. All of the dynamics for a recession, it's here. The top 5 industries of job cuts, obviously number 1 is government. The government job cuts is almost at 300,000. Technology with over 100,000 layoffs. Technology for the last 3 years, those jobs, absolute beating. Technology and the AI taking an absolute beating right now. Number 3, it's retail. I was surprised to see the hiring plans this month, but retail is number 3 with 86,000 job cuts. Services is number 4 with 61,000. Financial, 46,000, pretty crazy. And when we go to the layoff location, and I'm going to bring up the stats real quick on the District of Columbia housing market, because I've been watching the District of Columbia because of look at the job losses in just the District of Columbia. 298,000. So I'm like, okay, well, let's look at the housing market. Probably the prices are going to go down because there's overwhelming amounts of layoffs. So I'll show you that. But number 2 is California with 144,000 job cuts, New York at 80, New Jersey at 63, and my home state of Texas is at 43,000. Take a look at the housing market. The housing market in the District of Columbia has been going up, Probably a result of so many people trying to sell their house. I don't know, but it is up right now. And this is surprising, 4.8% year over year, with a median sales price of $659,000. Comment below if that surprises you. We're going to go back into a video from a young woman who just sent her resume out to 21 different employers, and she's going to give you guys a testimony of what's actually happening on the ground.
I'm about to lose it. This weekend I applied for 21 jobs. 21 jobs. I'm unemployed, okay? I've applied for corporate things, remote things not around me, and even minimum wage things because I need some income coming in right now locally. The 2 jobs that I've heard back from so far, one of them I was declined from. Guess which one I was declined from already? Whole Foods. Whole Foods coffee bar. I can't even get a job at a Whole Foods coffee bar. What is happening? Seriously. Like, minimum wage. That was the last. I was like, at least I will be able to do that. Like, so I can get some money. Whole Foods. What is happening? I need a job.
Mitch, in the midst of making this video, we also have the government shutdown going on, and we have the White House saying that if they don't come to the table, that there's going to be a whole wide range of additional layoffs. So can you tell us what you think is going to happen next in the labor market as it pertains specifically to the government shutdown? Do you believe if we don't open up right away, they're going to start doing layoffs? And do you believe that layoffs can be stopped if they do open up right away?
The government is and has made severe mistakes, and no different than the corporations that we have discussed on these videos in the past, where corporations hire people for political reasons, not having anything to do with the fact of whether that person is capable of doing the job or that the job should even exist. So the answer to your question is, yes, the layoffs are going to continue. Yes, they are going to ramp up, but that's not a reflection on this administration as much as this is a reflection on what the government has been doing, which is government for the sake of government. And that's not good. So on one hand, you have to have sympathy for those people who are losing their jobs, because none of this is comfortable for anybody. On the other hand, in many of these cases, these jobs shouldn't exist. And we're seeing this play out live right now at the central appraisal districts, which should not exist. We're seeing this play out live at the school district superintendents, which, given the accounting fraud and bond fraud that they're responsible for, should not exist. Point being that the laws exist, the math exists, and if a job is to truly be useful in society, the job should exist, but it must be useful. It's no different than what we're saying here with regard to the people wanting to get a job. What usefulness can you apply that you can deliver for the president of that company that you're interested in working for? When you can answer that question, that's the point at which you may be able to get a job. But all these people that have these jobs in Washington, i.e. the Federal Reserve, that literally do not do anything good for society. And all these problems that we're talking about, all this fraud, all this money printing, what's happening at the central appraisal districts, this is all fraud. Well, why do 23,000 people have a job when in fact the net result of that job is fraud? So yes, there are going to be many, many more layoffs, more than likely in excess of 500,000 coming out of the Washington market. This is going to get worse.
And Mitch, you're just mentioning like the fake jobs. We're not even talking about like the Doge necessarily. We're not even talking about AI, like the whole AI collapse that hasn't even begun yet. We're not even talking about the boomers leaving. We're not even talking about immigration. You guys, the job market right now is on fire. It is melting down right in front of our eyes. And if you're not paying attention, I'm going to tell you now, especially if you're a young man or woman, you're going to get caught up in this. You're going to get caught up in this. You guys, I'm in my 40s. I've been through this. I've been planning for this for 3 years, and I can barely hold on to my purchasing power myself. It is brutal out here, you guys. Let's look at the reasons why, because asking why is a very, very important question. All of the ones I highlighted, you can argue it's because of the economy. But this is saying the number one reason for job cuts is DOGE actions. And even though there was only 1,400 job cuts in September from DOGE actions, there's still a year-to-date total of 293,000. Number two reason is market/economic conditions. That's the number two reason. And even though, again, there was only 8,900 in September, the year-to-date shows the true reality. Job cuts totaling 208,000. Now, the number three reason is closing completely at 13,622 for the month of September. Year-to-date, 144,000. Number four is restructuring, 3,500 this month. Total year-to-date, 100,000. Bankruptcy is the fifth reason, with 1,800 happening in September, but a total year-to-date of 37,000. Number six is cost cutting, with 4,400 this month, but 26,000 year-to-date. Now, I've been looking at this, not too much impact here, but this is the DOGE downstream impact. As a result of other people getting fired, these new category of people are getting fired as well. And that total for September was 3,600, but the year-to-date is 20,976. This is job cuts by quarter. And I want to show you guys a few things here. Let me show you guys the total. So first of all, let's start with Q1 of 2025. You guys see that right here? I'm highlighting it. So I wanted to show you that this is literally the second worst Q1 going back all the way to 1989. Okay, you guys see that right here? Look at 497 job cuts, Q1 of 2025. The last time in the only Q1 that beat us this year was Q1 of 2009. And think about what I'm about to tell you guys. We were in the midst of the global financial crisis, and we have almost the same amount of job cuts. We were in the midst. Everyone knew about it. The quantitative easing was coming. We're in the global financial crisis. What are we in right now, guys? Comment below. What are we in right now? We're in some type of mutated, twisted lie. It's the only thing I could explain. But when we go all the way to the right, you guys see that the year to date right now, and this is going to be over 1 million, by the way, the year to date right now is 946,000. The job market is a dumpster fire, and they're lying to you about it. If that wasn't bad, look at this, guys. This is the announced hiring plans. Now, I highlighted September red because even though that's a huge jump, 117,000, most of it is retail, that is actually by far, okay, like over half. That is the lowest hiring in September, going back to 2017. In August, I highlighted job hiring of 1,494 because that is the lowest month ever on this report. And before that was July. That is the third worst month. The second worst month is actually 2023 in December. But look at back to back to back to back months of absolute trash hiring. If we go back to 2019 and we look at the year to date, in a normal market, okay, instead of having 204,000 hirings for the year, in a normal market, we would have 800,000 to 900,000 job hirings year to date. That shows you guys we have about 1/4 to 1/5 of what we normally have. Let's listen to this young woman who has some advice for the people that are going to these job fairs.
If you're in Houston, Texas, and you went to the oil and gas or tried to go to the oil and gas job fair, which I just went to or whatever the case may be, I turned my around so quick because ain't no way. First and foremost, it was 9:24. The line was already near to the highway. To the highway. At least about 4,000, like it was a good 2,000, 3,000 people up there. That's what the man said. But you know what really got me? We have to do better. When it comes to professionalism, Houston lacks it. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be the one to say it. Houston lacks the out of it. Because how are y'all showing up in basketball shorts? Why is there a girl in short shorts? How are y'all showing up in jeans and kicks? How are y'all showing up in wife beaters? Like, do you see how I'm dressed? Business professional? Did I was so thrown off. And then it's like, y'all are there taking up space and you aren't even prepared. Do y'all not understand that a job when it comes to jobs, especially professional jobs, like what you look like does matter if you want to be taken seriously.
Mitch, pretty much every single young adult has never been through a real recession at all. Most young adults, and I hate to say this, they are not equipped to go through a challenging job market. They're going to get bamboozled and they're going to learn by going through pain, and that's not good. So if there's any way that we can say something to help someone's chances of getting a job, let's say that, Mitch. What is the best advice you can give to Generation Z or even boomers that are in today's job market actively looking, but they can't find a job? What is your best advice for them?
Don't do stupid, angry videos. It's the first thing. The second thing is, isn't it interesting that the schools don't teach people how to survive? They can't balance the checkbook. Some, when they graduate, can't read their own diploma. And as that lady said, even the most simple, basic idea of if you're going to show up for a job interview, dress appropriately, shave, get a haircut, look like you're going to do something important for that company. And I want to take a second just to explain to everybody what the ramifications are. So if you say that there's a feeder plant feeds the big plants, the big 3 auto plants, whatever it happens to be, and one company lays off, let's say 8% of their workforce. Well, there's a trickle-down effect just from that 8%. So in the case of Washington, D.C., if 70,000 people as government employees get laid off, there's a trickle-down effect. Restaurant sales slow down. Rent may or may not get paid. That affects the landlords. When the landlords are affected because they can't pay the mortgage, that backs up on the banks. Well, what have the banks done? Well, if the banks have taken these loans and they morphed them by virtue of the bonds into something else, then the bonds start collapsing. So it's all connected. The fraud that's implicit in the system now and how these people got their jobs in the first place is now starting to be laid bare. That's why this unemployment is going to continue to ramp up. It's not by design in terms of what it is today. It was by design of the intent of the fraud that has been created. And schools don't teach this. They don't teach what are the ramifications of what you're doing with your money and or not doing with your money. This is what people have to understand and should be educated on. So some of the blame, good portion of it, has to go to the schools.
Remember, you guys, I went through this already. I was in the gutter trying to make my way through life during 2009, so I know all about this, believe it or not. And I will also add some of the other things you could do, especially if you're depressed, is critical thinking. Critical thinking is important, meaning think ahead and envision your goals. You got to hold on to some hope and you got to hold on to some type of discipline. Because remember, you guys, our discipline can lead us out of depression and give us confidence in our abilities to accomplish things. And you guys, you're going to need that because right now things are incredibly tough. But know this, you're not alone and you are incredibly important. And the last thing is, more than likely, this is not your fault. Now, having said that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys already know we wish you luck. Go to our website, check the links below, and we hope you win.